Today's episode of Behind These Walls takes us behind the walls of Persimmon Place in Days Point along the James River. In the early to mid-20th century, the entire area was a beach resort. Sun and sand and fish and fountain pens, as well as persimmons, all play a part in this story. The history of Days Point dates back to a 1619 land grant. By 1892, the Days Point Land and Improvement Company formed to sell waterfront property along the James River. The land was divided into farmettes of 25 acres, and prices ranged from $20 to $30 an acre. In 1902, the Morgans built a two-story frame hotel in the area. With 20-plus rooms and wraparound screened-in porches, the Days Point Hotel opened each summer as a relaxing place serving fresh fish, seasonal produce, and homemade ice cream. In 1907, Roy and Helen Conklin arrived at Morgans Beach from Ohio. Roy was an inventor. His patented design for the first self-filling fountain pen in 1897 allowed his company to thrive, even gaining approval from Mark Twain, who became the official spokesperson for the Conklin brand. The pen is renowned for being the first mass-produced self-filling pen, as well as the first mass-produced pen to use a flexible rubber ink sac. The Conklins' home on the waterfront became known as Persimmon Place, due to two Japanese persimmon trees located on the property. The Japanese persimmons inspired the inventive Conklin to develop a new variety of persimmon tree. Ultimately, he grew upwards of 590 of these Conklin persimmons in his orchard, and each fall he picked, wrapped, and boxed the fruit, shipping it all over the world.
He was sort of an amateur horticulturalist, and he raised Oriental persimmons and sold them, and they were shipped up by steamboat up to New York. There's one tree still left on the premises, and there's one more tree in Smithfield.
The persimmon tree on the property is laden with orange fruit in the fall, and the area deer love it. The other remaining tree is downtown Smithfield, the tallest persimmon tree in the Commonwealth. By the 1920s, the entire area was a hive of activity. Hunters came in the fall and winter, fishermen visited in the spring, and locals and tourists flocked here in the late spring and summer to swim in the river, play games, and devour local fare. Those staying overnight could stay at the hotel, camp, or rent a cottage. Several locals owned their own cottages.
This whole area had been mainly summer cottages. Very few year-round residents. Everybody here in the business, in the leadership in town, had places down here at the beach. And so Mr. Julius Gwaltney had a place, Mr. Howard Gwaltney had a place, Mr. P.D. Gwaltney had a place, Mr. Luter had a place. It was definitely a summer place.
In 1933, Persimmon Place became the summer home of Julius and Henrietta Gwaltney. It was a place to unwind away from the hustle and bustle of the Gwaltney meatpacking business in Smithfield. Of course, repairs and upkeep are part of any structure.
Mr. Gwaltney re-roofed it at that time and had hand-cut cypress shake shingles was what was on the wood part of the house at that time. He also put metal roofs on the additions. There are a lot of additions on this house. The shake shingles that Mr. Gwaltney put here were interesting in that you could see light through the roof because they didn't use the same building material that we do now.
As automobiles became more prevalent and people began to travel further away for entertainment, Morgans Beach's appeal as a convenient beach resort waned, and the cottages transitioned into year-round residences. The Walls family moved to Morgans Beach in 1973 from Boykin's Tavern at the Isle of Wight Courthouse. The cottage was one of several structures on the purchased parcel.
The folks that lived behind us sold the house to my parents because Mrs. Walls did not want to live in an old house again. They bought that house and moved into it, and they had this place previously, a couple years prior to that, as a summer cottage. And that's when my dad, I think he bought this in 1968.
What came with the cottage? Some furniture and a few decorations.
And it had two fish that came with the house. Although they didn't stay because he called up and said, "I'd like to have my fish back." And we graciously let him have his fish back. They did leave the furniture. and we've enjoyed the furniture that we still use parts of it.
Persimmon Place became the permanent residence of Fred and Darby Walls in 1976. Over the years, other spaces were added, including a kitchen. Other updates like flooring, bathrooms, drywall, and wall repairs have occurred, and a few discoveries were made along the way, such as signs of a previous fire. No one is certain when the fire occurred, but when the chimney was closed in, charred wood still visible behind this pipe stove cover was discovered.
So when we took the walls out, we found where there had been a fire. And evidently it must have been, they were trying to get the job done really quickly, or for some reason they didn't use a regular 2x4 on the side wall. They went out and got a tree. So when we opened up the wall, here was a tree rather than a 2x4. One of Darby's favorite experiences here was when we had a snowstorm, a fine powdery snow. We had to shovel snow out of the attic. When she did that, she said, "Fred, we need a new roof." But the interesting thing was that it would not leak water, but it would allow fine powdery snow to blow through.
While all homes experience changes and/or additions, this structure's L-shaped footprint is still in use today as the core of the home.
The oldest sections of the house are the front room there, where the bay is, this dining room space, and that one bedroom off to the left of the dining room.
Behind the house is the bathhouse. This is where beachgoers could change into their bathing costumes or shower off after a day of fun in the sun. With unobstructed views of the James River, Persimmon Place remains the perfect spot to appreciate the beautiful nature and wildlife that Isle of Wight County has to offer.
That back there, right across through those windows, being able to look at that every day, and just what the good Lord's done here and the beauty of the nature and all the different animals that we see, the eagles, the herons, the geese,